Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build Monday Night Football Edition. I am Kevin, getting ready to go over the Raiders Cowboys Showdown slate over at DraftKings. Hopefully, going to help you out. My God, the main slate was brutal on Sunday, but hey, we were all over that Cardinal stack: Jacoby, Wilson, and McBride. So if you had those three guys, you were fine, and you probably had a chance to cash. My lineups were terrible, and I still cashed. So hopefully that worked out for you, but we don't want to cash on Monday. We want to win big. So hopefully I'm going to point you in the right direction. If I do help you out in any way, please hit the like button and subscribe. Both those things help me out a ton. Cannot overstate that one. And also, if you just want more advice, you can hit up the Discord link in the description or on the YouTube channel. Come join our growing community and share your lineup, ask who everybody else is playing, and just ask for advice in general. And we are all there to help out. If you want premium plays, my number one plays for the Showdown slate are plays for NBA and everything else that we're offering. It's just $5.99 a month to come and join that and just get every single piece of content that we push out, plus extra analysis and insight. And that just covers everything for the whole month. So definitely take advantage of that. So let's get to it, man. The way we go is we look at the captain spot mostly, because obviously that is where we want to hit first. We want to make sure either we are getting elite value there or we are getting the right captain play. So looking back at the last Showdown slate we did, I mean, I was definitely with everybody else as far as like we got to play Drake May and Travion Henderson, but Travion Henderson was the chalk, so I wanted to pivot him to flex a little bit more than the field and play Justin Fields instead. That wasn't a bad thing to do because Justin Fields did smash for the ownership and his price and everything. But you just definitely still needed to have Travion Henderson in your flex if you were going to do that. Hopefully you cashed on that slate. Hopefully you cashed on the main slate. Let's do more than cash on the Monday Night Football Showdown slate. All right, so the problem with this one is that we have two bad teams. No, mostly it's that we don't really know what to expect from the Raiders on a night-to-night basis or game-to-game basis, rather. But this game does have a 50.5 total, so there should be scoring. Dallas is still basically the worst defense in the league, and they also have kind of the best passing game in the league, or actually literally the best passing game. And while they love to throw the ball a lot, or out of necessity they throw the ball a lot, they are capable on the ground with Javonte Williams. So one way or another, Dallas is probably going to eat here. And based off the matchup and just the necessity of scoring, I would imagine the Raiders also eat to a certain degree. The ownership's going to be pretty split up top. Like there are a lot of good plays on this slate. So I think like we certainly can get different very easily. It's just going to depend on, are we fading the most obvious play? Is that a good idea? And are we actually playing the right plays in their place? And are we getting cheap enough? Because there's so many good plays to get to. So we'll go over all that as we get going here. I'm just going to walk through the plays based off of projections. And if I don't really like a play, I'm going to kind of ignore it or tell you why real quick. And if I do like a play, just the opposite. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each play because a lot of them are self-explanatory. Like let's start it off with the top projected play. That is Dak Prescott. I mean, Dak Prescott has a floor. Like he does not have that rushing ability that he used to have. And of course, they do have Javonte Williams. So it's always possible Dallas gets near, scoring within striking distance of scoring. And then they just give the ball to Javonte Williams, right? That's entirely possible. So Dak has a decent matchup in front of him, but it's not like the Raiders get like absolutely smoked all the time. Like if you look at their last game against the Broncos, they lost 10-7. So they definitely can have more of a defensive battle. I don't think we're headed for that at all. But just to show you that Dak Prescott is the top projecting guy and he's going to get a lot of ownership, and he's not always going to bring that ceiling to the table. That said, I think we're okay to play Dak if you want to in the flex. I just think if Dak is going to get there, what's probably going to happen? You're either going to have Javonte getting a rushing score and benefiting as a receiver maybe, or you're going to have CD or Pickens probably lighting it up. And based off of DK being a PPR site, it stands to reason that CD or Pickens would probably smash with 30-plus fantasy points, and Dak would be a little bit behind them. Considering how close they are in price, and Pickens is actually $2,000 cheaper, and CD isn't even $1,000 more, I just think they're easier plays. Like I just think they make more sense. And Dak, like you're looking at a difference between 4% ownership between Dak and CD right now. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure if it's going to stick and like how that balances out. But I would rather take a shot on the ceiling of CD Lamb than Dak right now. I think that's an easy call for me. CD has not been amazing last couple of weeks, but he does have a ceiling. We know that. He's gone over 20 fantasy points a couple times now. And the Raiders don't really have anything that scares me to make me think that he can't do that here. So just in terms of sheer upside, CD is a top 2 play on this slate, 100%, and I prefer him over Dak. Ashton Jeanty comes in with the third best projection. He's just a rock solid play. Dallas is an equal opportunity sad sack. They are number 1 in terms of allowing fantasy points to the quarterback position, and they are number 3 to the running back position, and number 1 against wide receiver. Where are they at tight end? Not as bad at all, actually. Middle of the road, but when you play somebody like Brock Bowers, we'll get to that in a bit. I don't think that is something we should be shying away from at all. But, long story short, they are not good defensively, and Ashton Jeanty could absolutely pop off here. The last time he had a matchup this good, he went off for 37 fantasy points against the Bears. So Jeanty definitely has something working against him, and that is the fact that his offensive line is not very good. And the Raiders, partially out of necessity because they've been trailing in a lot of games, but they don't run enough or as much as you would like them to. So you at times have a volume and most times have an efficiency issue with Jeanty. But he has elite touchdown equity. I think he scored 2 times in his last game. It's not pulling up here on the log. I'd have to filter it over. Let's see if I go like this. I think he did. Anyways. Point is, he does have touchdown equity when they get close. He is going to be a factor. He is a factor as a receiver. He's going to be looking in a close game at about 20-plus touch opportunities. So he looks like a great play. And if we're looking at split ownership up here, like if we organize the ownership, Bowers is running away with 18% ownership. This is like the Josh Allen play of a showdown slate where like you'd go into it and Josh Allen's like 25% owned. And that's basically Bowers in this game. I'll get to Bowers in a little bit. I just think that right away, because of the ownership and attention going to Bowers, we certainly can start looking at some of these other guys because the ownership split. We're looking at 12, 12, 9, 8, 8. And all these guys are totally viable and very good pivots away from Brock. I'll get to why Brock is a good or bad play in a little bit. But the point is, Jeanty projects a little bit better. And we know he has a massive ceiling and a huge role. So if Brock is going to be massively owned, we can get leverage on that right away with Jeanty, and I'm totally cool with that. I don't have a problem with it. The matchup is sublime, and he has the third best projection of the slate. So a lot of things pointing to Jeanty being a really good leverage play. And, if you talk about leverage like 17 to 12%, I don't think it's that much of it's not that big of a deal. Like if Bowers gets 30 and Jeanty gets 30, are you really getting any leverage? Not really, especially since Bowers is $3,000 cheaper in the captain, which is insane and just another reason to play him probably. But if Bowers doesn't hit, then you're getting major leverage, obviously. Javonte Williams also looks good. He is going to be less owned than both CD and Jeanty, and of course also Brock. So just pure ownership wise, Javonte is very interesting. The Raiders as a whole are not good against the run, but when you look at a per carry basis, they're actually pretty damn good. I think it's possible that the Raiders are just behind so often that volume, it just kind of like snowball effects, and that yards per rush thing just goes away eventually, and just the sheer volume of the opposition running the ball starts to work against them as far as like where they rank. But per carry, they've been pretty good. Like they're not like getting eaten alive on the ground really in that regard. So if you look at it that way, Javonte is a little bit scary. Plus the fact that the Cowboys just like to throw a lot. And that might be where the best matchup is for this game as well. But it's not like Javonte is a scary play in terms of role or talent or touchdown equity or any of that. So if the game is close and we're getting into scoring position, we know Javonte has a clear path to 20 plus touches, and we know he has a clear path to 20 plus fantasy points. Has not totally gotten there overall, like on a regular, consistent basis lately, but he's a good play. I don't have a problem with him whatsoever. And then when you look at the ownership, he's even more enticing. Brock Bowers is just absurdly cheap. Not really sure what that is. I don't know if DraftKings was just like, let's mess with everybody or not. I don't know. But he has 12K. Obviously, the floor is painfully low. Like if you are a season-long Bowers holder or even a dynasty, it really has not been a fun year. But the spike weeks, like this is where you would have wanted Bowers in best ball, because 46 2 games ago, was it way back in the early in the season? No, that was last year actually. Yeah, 18 in week 1. Like it hasn't been good. He hadn't been healthy though either. And then obviously Denver's a very good defensive team, and the Raiders for for one reason or another, decided to get him 3 targets in his last game. I don't think they're going to make that same mistake again here. And it's a pretty good spot. The Cowboys are, like I said, middle of the road against tight end. But again, I think what was this point we said with the Patriots in the last showdown slate? I said the Patriots on the year have been very good at limiting quarterbacks in terms of rushing ability, but they also had not faced anybody with rushing ability. The only person they did was Josh Allen, and he was productive. So I said Fields is probably going to have a lot more success here than anybody thinks he will, and that ended up being true. I did not look at who the Cowboys have actually faced tight end wise so far. Let me just actually pull up their schedule on the fly and just kind of see like who did they really face, and is they're middle of the pack anyway, so you can attack them no matter what. But let's see, they faced Eagles, Goddard, that's a good tight end. Giants, Bears. I mean, they faced Packers. I'm pretty sure Kraft ate them up. Let me check that. Kraft ended up doing what? 5 for 56. It's not nothing. So I just think there's certainly a matchup that can be had. And Bowers is not your regular tight end. He's super explosive. We saw that 2 weeks ago again in his 3 touchdown game where he was just taking catches and just rolling to the house. So certainly he can do that here. The ownership is concerning because he does have the low floor, and just in general, if he comes out and has a bad or so-so game, that's just a major leverage opportunity where we can just go play basically anybody else and get a major leg up on the field. And of course, if he gets hurt, like if he gets hurt in the game, again, you're just fading the chalkiest guy in the captain spot, or maybe even being underweight on him in general. I don't really think that's what I want to do on this slate. I think eating the chalk with Bowers at the captain, because he's only 12K, is something we definitely can and should do a good amount of the time. Like if I'm doing one lineup, I just play differently. I probably wouldn't captain him just because I want to get different. I want to kind of load up. There's so many good plays. But if on average, if you're playing one lineup, I'd probably captain Bowers. And I'd still get a lot of exposure to him, maybe meeting the field here. But you can certainly get away. There's so many good plays. You can certainly get away with fading him at captain and keeping him in the flex. I would not fade Bowers across the board. I would not be very underweight on him across the board because he's only 8,000 in the flex. So I definitely want him a lot. In most of my lineups, I want him somewhere. I just wouldn't go crazy with him in the captain because I just think there's too many good plays that offer immediate leverage. And like I said, like the ownership gap isn't super big, but if those ownership numbers come in even a little bit under, and we're looking at like 20% Brock and like 10% for CD, or 7 or 8% for Dak, and so on and so forth, that's an edge, man. So it just comes down to, is Bowers going to come out and nuke and get 40 fantasy points? That would be the only scenario where you absolutely have to have him in captain. And then maybe that's not even true, because like if you come out and get CD and he also gets 40, I mean, you just need to get your flex right. So lots to think about there, but I think I'm definitely trending towards being a little bit underweight on Brock only in the captain, not overall. Overall, $8,000 Brock in the captain or in the flex is super easy to get to, and I'm not going to be fading that. Now, here comes some leverage opportunities, even more so. Geno Smith has just like an even lower floor than Brock. And obviously Brock has a low floor because of Geno Smith. Geno Smith will turn into a turnover machine. He will just come out there and just totally suck for no reason. And then other games he will blow up for 26 or 29 fantasy points. This is definitely a game where I see a blow up as a major possibility. So you can certainly captain Geno, I think, on this slate based off of projection, based off of matchup, and definitely based off of ownership. The way I see it, though, if Geno is going to get there, almost definitely Brock is smashing, or one of his other Raiders receivers are going off. So I'm not like super interested in Geno in the captain, to a crazy level. I think a couple of shares of Geno in the captain at 4% ownership is totally viable. And if you get to him in flex, especially if you're captaining some of these Raiders guys, I think that does make sense. But I also feel like these guys can get there without Geno getting there. So Geno is not a must for me, but at that ownership, if you want to be a little bit overweight, nothing wrong with that. Pickens at 13.5K at almost 10% ownership in the captain feels like something I don't want to do. Pickens has an immense ceiling, super talented, super explosive. The matchup is there. But we've seen lately what his production is like when CD is there. Like CD is the guy. They throw enough and the matchup is good enough that You can certainly leverage the CD interest with Pickens, but the ownership isn't so low that I feel like we have to do that. I just feel like there's other ways to do it. That said, if you want to play George Pickens, nothing wrong with him. I don't think I would play Pickens and CD in the same lineup necessarily. And I think if you're going to captain Pickens, especially, I don't think we need to force CD in our lineup. Like if Pickens is going to get there as the captain and get you 25 to 30 fantasy points and get you that leverage, I don't see why we're also forcing in CD at that big salary. So that's probably how I'd approach that. Jake Ferguson is interesting in the sense that he's not going to be owned at all in the captain, and he is a starter and he's out there. But the Raiders have been like weirdly very good against fantasy tight ends. 4th against fantasy tight ends on the year, only 2 touchdowns allowed, not even 400 receiving yards. By comparison, the Bengals are the worst with 12 touchdowns allowed and 800 receiving yards to tight ends. It's not like we have to look at rankings or any statistical, data and be like, oh, well, there's that, so I can never do this thing. Based off of ownership alone, Ferguson's an interesting captain play. And he's only like 11K. So he's cheaper than all the other guys I already talked about, and nobody's going to be on him at all. Like he comes at 4.6% owned. I don't even know if I believe that. Like I think given all these dudes, Dak, CD, Genty, Javonte, Brock, even Pickens and Geno, like I don't think Ferguson's going to be owned even 3% in the captain. So just a really good play based off of ownership and opportunity in the sense that he's out there. He's out on the field on a team that loves to pass. So for that reason, I think he's interesting, but the shares would be minimal. And I don't think he's a must in the flex, even though he's going to be a modestly priced option in the flex. Like anytime you can get a guy who's going to be like, 5, 6K and he's out there and has a role, I think that's a fair play. I just don't think this matchup is very good for him. And I don't think that's just not where I'm going to go right away. Trey Tucker is super interesting. I'm not going to tell you if he's my favorite play of the night or not, but he kind of is. This is just major leverage on the Bowers ownership. If 17 to 20% of the field is going to be captaining Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker looks amazing. He is $2,000 cheaper than Brock. The projection obviously is on the lower end when you compare him to all the other top options, but he's the cheapest guy we've talked about yet. He does still project for over 11 fantasy points, and nobody's going to play him. If you compare him to Jake Ferguson, I think he's a way better play. He's like the technical or literal wide receiver one. He's the literal wide receiver one for their offense. He's the top wide receiver right now because they traded Jacoby Myers and they don't have Devontae anymore, obviously. But like Brock is their wide receiver one, but Trey is the next guy in line. So this is massive leverage for a tiny but super explosive player, very fast and quick. And he had a massive week just eons ago, 43 fantasy points against the Commanders. He has not done anything remotely close to that since then, but he also has not had a spot this good since then. So I definitely think Trey is a guy we should be being over on. And the nice thing is you don't have to work very hard to get over on him. If you're going to do 20 lineups, you can go and target Trey at you could just go 5%, you could go 10%. I'd be a little bit more aggressive personally because I think he's going to have a really good game. But yeah, he looks like a really, really good play that not that many people are going to captain. And in general, let me check his flex ownership. I mean, he's going to be a little bit owned, like almost 25, 30%. So he's not going to go ignored. But I would definitely go over on that. If you don't want to captain him, that's fine because obviously the floor is pretty low. But that is a guy that is going to be easy to get to in the flex especially if you're paying up for somebody. And he's not going to be egregiously owned. So I think that's a good play no matter how you look at it. Kickers, Brandon Aubrey, Daniel Carson. Like Aubrey is like a secret weapon for Dallas. So he's just going to always have opportunity there. I don't want to captain him, but you just never know. I mean, the last few primetime games have been ghastly, so you just never know if this can be like a 18 to 15 kicker fest. I don't think it will be, but Aubrey is going to score. He's safe. I think he's more of a flex play, but I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to captain him. Same with Daniel Carlson. I actually need in one of my dynasty leagues, I need Daniel Carlson to have a nice game and Brock Bowers to smash, so I'll be hoping Carlson does well. And it is a good matchup for him to have a lot of success. So I think both kickers are in place, slightly or pretty hefty lean towards Aubrey just because he's in the better spot overall and certainly the better kicker. But they're both viable for sure. Not super interested in Michael Mayer. You could definitely bet on them using 2 tight ends a lot more. Like he's been a little bit more involved lately ever since they traded Jacoby Myers. So again, Bowers mega owned, leverage that with Michael Mayer. I'd probably just go a little bit over in the flex. I don't think we need to captain him. Is Michael Mayer really going to come out and get like 10 catches for 100 yards or something crazy or score 2 touchdowns? Probably not. You can make a bet on that happening if you want to and captain him. I just think it's not a great bet, so I don't think I really want to do that. Tyler Lockett, oddly enough, kind of a good play. I know he's super old, seemed washed in Tennessee or whatever, but also the Titans just aren't good. So maybe, after last week, he had 6 targets, 5 catches, 9 fantasy points. Maybe he's still okay. And if he's going to be the second wide receiver or kind of closing in on Tucker and being the second guy behind Brock, he's suddenly kind of interesting. So price at 5.1 in the captain, not owned at all, projecting horribly, as you would imagine. But everything else looks at him as being a pretty decent captain play. Not like crazy high ownership we don't want here. We don't want crazy exposure because the ceiling just still is not going to be great. But he is interesting. He does have a role. If he can get 5 catches and find a way to score a touchdown, he could break the slate. It sounds crazy, but it actually could happen. Cowboys defense is in play just because the Raiders offense is absolutely putrid. Outside of Bowers and Genty, talent-wise, they're fine up top, but they lack reliable depth. That is true. And they don't really score super, super consistently. So, the Cowboys defense is exactly why we like the Raiders, but at the same time, they can be an opportunistic defense, and they do have a good matchup in front of them here. So it wouldn't be crazy to see the Cowboys make their lives a living hell. I don't really want to captain them, but I think going a little bit over on Dallas in general is not crazy if that's where you land. Kevontae Turpin, Ryan Flournoy. If Ryan Flournoy is just way overpriced, I think. At 6'9", I don't know. He won't be owned because of that, but I don't really want to do that. Kevontae Turpin is just a shot in the dark, and his price is a little bit much for a guy that is like that. I'd rather the captain be paying $2K for him. So nobody's going to play those guys for the very reason, but I don't really have a lot of interest in them. Raheem Mostert, you're hoping for an injury. Jayden Blue, I don't even think he's going to be active. So you're looking at Hunter Lupke. I don't want to captain Hunter Lupke, but I think if you could captain Lupke and hope he gets a couple catches and falls in for a touchdown somehow, and then you just get to load up on everybody else. Not something I do a lot of at all. Probably won't do it, at all. Anyways, I'm just saying these $300. So if you want to just have a ton of room, there's always that. Now, the 2 guys that are very, very interesting down low are going to be Jack Besh and Dante Thornton Jr. Thornton is playing way more than Besh. They're both very talented rookies. They just don't do anything. So the question is going to be, does Besh see more snaps in this game? Maybe they're going to roll more wide receivers out there because it's such a tasty matchup. I don't know. I think he had 11 snaps or something last game. And in the week before that, he had none on offense. It was just strictly special teams. So it's not really the best spot or the best thing to do because Besh is super unreliable. So I think between the 2, I'm definitely leaning Thornton. But if nobody's going to play Besh or Thornton, I'm just going to be over on both of them a little bit. A dash in the captain, because if you put in Thornton, even Thornton here, come up here and you can just go get. We know. I'll do a little walkthrough of how I would build if I'm doing it this way. No matter what lineups I'm doing, I want CD probably, unless I got to get out of the captain to do that. Sorry. Unless I'm captaining Pickens, then I wouldn't want CD. Otherwise, you're going to want to get CD. If you're playing Thornton, you might want to entertain the idea of getting Geno, and then you're probably going to want Genty or Bowers. In general, you're not going to be able to fit everybody. It just is what it is. You have to pick your spots. But in the flex, Bowers is so easy to get to at 8K, so it's hard not to play him. And you have 9.6 remaining per player, so you still can kind of do whatever you want. So at 9, you could go add in Pickens there if you really wanted to, and then go get Javonte or Genty. Let's just do Genty for fun. So you are loading up. If I'm going to do this, I probably do want to get Geno because if Thornton's going to smash, that probably means Geno is smashing. And then if I am going to fade Dak here, I might want to also try to work in Javonte. Just line up building 101 as far as why are we playing CD and George Pickens and we're not getting exposure to Dak. That feels bad. Anyways, the point here is not to master the perfect lineup right here in front of you. The point is to show you that guys like Besh and Thornton, while very, very risky, can open things up completely, and we can get whoever the heck we want. And just like overall, I don't think I would target. If I'm going to try to get leverage on a chalky CD or a chalky Bowers, I would entertain going under those guys. Like if I'm going to go play Trey Tucker in the captain, in those specific lineups, I would probably be under on Brock a bit. If I'm going to go attack with Pickens, I would be under on CD a little bit, and vice versa. Just probably not super likely that all those guys end up smashing together. So you want to try to like really maximize those leverage points. I don't think I'd necessarily make a rule in like a lineup builder to completely set that so it's like that every single time, but that's just something to consider. Okay, that does it for me. Hopefully this does help you out. I really hope that breaking down the top plays and looking at some underlooked or overlooked plays rather, I hope that helps and add a little bit of insight and nuance and everything. If you want even more help, I do have a write-up on this post highlighting the safest plays of the slate and some GPP plays that I really like and plan on being overweight on. You can get access to that, plus all the NFL content we have coming for the week, plus NBA core plays for today. Just $5.99 for the whole month. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay. Come just check us out in Discord and join the community and talk shop, and we can have fun for free, no cost to you as well. And of course, these YouTube videos are always free, and you can pay us back by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Both those things help us out quite a bit. All right, thanks for watching, and good luck.